Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be drawing ears or earlobes to be more specific. I thought it might be interesting, not just as a demonstration but also for practice for me, because I often oversimplify this body part. You could just watch it and have fun, or maybe draw along with me. Anyway, there's a wondrous variety of earlobes, not just in terms of size but also in terms of shape. I personally have been endowed with ears that are not only of fair size but also very peculiar shape. I'm gonna show you how I drew these 4 different ear types, so keep watching. Let's start with the first one. I'm gonna use a graphite pencil first to do a sketch, and then I'm gonna use a charcoal pencil and a Untitled for blending. I'm almost halfway done here. One of the things that you'll notice me doing is that once I've done with the sketch, I normally draw some of these darker areas, and then I spread the charcoal around, and that gives me some value which I will later erase a little bit with an eraser to create highlights. I also drew some hair around the ear just to make it a little more realistic. Now let me finish this. Okay, so that's the first one. That's probably good enough for this demonstration. Now, I'm not going to get into detailed anatomy, which I don't know, but like I said, there is a great variety of ears in terms of shape, and you'll find that some of them are more 3D than others, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is that some of them are deeper and some of them look more flat. So you have to take that into account when shading. Because when you're shading, your range of value has to reflect that depth. So if you want to make it look deeper, you have to use a greater range of value, and if you want to make it look more flat, then you use a smaller range of value. In other words, there is less difference between the darkest and the lightest areas. Now I'm going to try to draw one that's a little more flat. So as you can see, this one looks a little more flat than this one. Now I just want to clarify what I was saying about the range of value. Obviously, even in this one you will still have some of these very dark areas in some of these darkest places, but most of the inner part of the earlobe will appear to be more flat because there is a less range of value here in this part. So it is because of this range of value that these areas here appear to be more raised, and the earlobe appears to be deeper or more 3D, as I said. Now I just want to say a few words about lines and edges. First, when you're sketching, obviously you're using lines, and when you're shading, especially if you're using a tapered stroke, you will still be using lines, but eventually you will blend them in. So when you're blending, most of these lines disappear. If you leave the lines here, you will still end up with something that looks like an ear, but it won't be quite as realistic. In order to make it look realistic, like it has a real shape, you need to shade that in properly, and when you're shading, most of these lines will disappear. Why is that so? Because in reality there aren't really lines, there are shapes and light. So when we look at some of these shapes here, this will appear like a line, but it's not really a line. When we shaded underneath it, we've sort of explained what's shading what's casting a shadow onto what, and you always have to do that with lines. Even when this line here, we've shaded around it, and we've sort of explained to the viewer that this is a part which is deeper and which is receiving less light, and these two parts here are raised and they are getting more light. So even with lines, you have to shade around them and sort of explain them to the person who's looking at the drawing. Now, I just want to say a few more things about edges. As you can see, there are some edges on this drawing which are very clean, meaning that there is a sharp transition between one value and the other. And some of them are very soft, meaning that we have soft transitions here. This is very important, and it's important to know when you need a clean edge. You need a clean edge where one part of the ear ends and the other one begins, or where one object ends and the other one begins. For example, here around the outer part of the ear we have a very sharp edge. Also here there is a sharp edge between this and here and here. So those are some of the places where you will need a clean edge. In this inner part of the earlobe, where we have these sort of soft wavy transitions, you will not need a clean edge. You will need a softer transition. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind if you want to draw a realistic looking ear. Now let me draw a few more. This third ear is slightly different than the previous two, because if you look at the lower part of it, you can see that it's almost attached to the side of the head. It's almost merging with the head, whereas this is not the case with the previous two. So according to this, there are two basic types of ears, those that are free and those that are attached. Most people have ears like this, but some people also have attached ears where this lower portion merges with the side of the head. It's not that uncommon. The last one I'm going to do is going to have this part detached and considerably larger, so I'm going to cover that type as well, and then I'm just going to sum up some of the things that I've been talking about in this video. That's the last one. I deliberately wanted to make this lower portion of the ear more detached and larger to make a contrast with this previous one. Those are all the ear shapes I wanted to cover today. I just want to say a few more words. First, obviously these are relatively quick sketches, and you can make them far more realistic and even photorealistic if you work on them long enough. I just want to go over some main points of this video. First, you need to keep in mind that there are many different shapes of ears. Secondly, obviously, you have to use shading and the range of value in order to try to show that shape, in order to try to show that topography of the ear, which is rather complex, obviously. Third, like I said, don't leave dangling lines. You have to shade properly, and you have to interpret every line. You have to show what it is by shading around it or under it. You have to show what's shading what. And your goal is to show shapes and light rather than mere lines. And finally, like I said, when you see that there is an edge to something, whether you're drawing ears or any other object, then you have to make sure that you also have a clean edge in your drawing as well. Well, that's it for this video, but before I finish, I'm just going to show you what my ears look like. Well, here they are. It seems that they are a little bit wide around the middle and sort of tapering to the top. They kind of look elvish. I don't know. Thanks for watching. I hope you found some of this useful.